Hello, everybody. How are you today? I am recording this on a Saturday afternoon, and I'm just taking a little break. I'm almost finished editing the videos from the week 6 content of the Voice Liberation Method. And then after this, I'm going to film week 7. I can't believe it. I'm almost done. It's been a lot of work, but a true labor of love. And I've learned a lot through this process, which is going to make the next course I build much easier. I always take every new project as a chance to learn how to do something more efficiently the next time. And then it gets easier the time after that. And before you know it, I'll have something like 20 courses up there, and it will get easier with each one. But I'm super proud of what I've created so far. I may have included too much stuff, but I would rather deliver too much to you guys than for you to get a course and feel like that's it. Like, this isn't enough. So when you do finally get the course, just take your time with it. You don't have to rush through it. You don't have to do everything 1 week at a time. You can take 2 weeks to finish 1 week's section of lessons, or you can breeze through a couple weeks if you're a very fast learner. So anyway, I wanted to take a break because I was just taking a break out and getting some sunshine. And I had been looking through my yearbook from my senior year of high school. And this week I posted a new chapter to Singing Through the Shadows, where I actually talked about this very pivotal musical experience I had in my senior year of high school, where I was in a musical. And there were some pictures in the yearbook, some really good pictures of me and my co-star, and I was kind of reflecting on that. And my co-star has gone on to have a very successful Broadway career. He has starred in Hamilton and Shrek, and I believe The Lion King. He's probably been in a lot of other musicals. I've seen him on TV several times. He's not a household name, but if you know Broadway stars, you probably know who Daniel Breaker is. I'm not somebody who follows Broadway, so I didn't know he was well known amongst the Broadway fan base until I shared this with a few of my teenage voice students. And they were like, "Oh my God, you went to school with Daniel Breaker." And so they actually knew who he was, which made me feel very proud. And I've often thought about him. He ended up going to Juilliard after high school and ended up going straight to Broadway. And his career was a slow burn. He had success. I remember we maintained friendship, the way I say that very loosely, meaning we were Facebook friends. And so I would pay attention, and I saw that he was having some success, but nothing too extravagant. It really wasn't until, I guess, the last 10 years where he started getting major roles. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, good for you. You stuck it out. And I kept having so much respect for him. And throughout the years, I would kind of reflect on how I ended up not going in that direction, even though I absolutely intended to. My plan was to go into Broadway and try to make a name for myself there. But as I revealed in my newest chapter, That's Not Your Life, in Singing Through the Shadows, I had a pretty upsetting experience during that musical that I was in that really turned me off to the idea of going that route. And I ended up making a totally different decision with my life. But I would reflect in looking at seeing how his career was going and knowing that we had gotten ourselves to we were both at the top level in terms of the casting, which my school was absolutely hierarchical, and it was extremely competitive. So to get into those roles, the lead roles, so I would often see, well, he got to Juilliard. He managed to persevere a Broadway career. Why couldn't I hack it? Why did I move to Los Angeles? And I had success in many ways, but not like what he was having, not in like the dream of most performers, what most performers dream of having. And I'm not really the kind of person to dwell on self-pity. And so these moments would come and go, and I wouldn't spend a lot of time on them because I just think they're a waste of energy. I don't think it's good to get stuck in a vibration of self-pity. You gotta recognize that your path is your own. You are where you are because it's where you're supposed to be at that time, and you don't know what the future holds. And there's still time. There's still time for things to happen. And that's what I kept telling myself. And then right before the Healthy Voice, right before I decided to launch, a series of events happened that I'm going to share with you. And I know when I started this platform, I was not sure if I would ever be comfortable sharing this, but I feel inspired today to share because I think there might be some valuable information in this story for you. So I'm going to guess maybe 7 months ago, or maybe even 8 months ago, I was definitely within the last year, I was thinking about a teacher who changed my life. I think I must have been, I don't know why I was thinking about this, but when I was in 8th grade, I went through a very, very difficult time. And I had this math teacher, and it was his first year. He was a first-year teacher. My middle school was very rough. I mean, we had random weapon searches. We had violent fights in the hallway and in the bathrooms. We had, you could, every hour between class periods, you could witness at least one couple making out in the hallway. I mean, it was just an awful, awful place. And I remember this teacher as just being at first I remember just thinking, God, this guy's such a wimp. But he was a first-year teacher, and I certainly know what it's like to be a first-year teacher, and it's very, very hard. And he ended up making a huge difference in my life because he had heard that I enjoyed singing, and I had never sung for my classmates before, really, with the exception of maybe one of my friends. So I don't know how he knew this. Maybe he heard me talking about singing at church or something. But it turned out that he was a musician, and there was a talent show coming up. And so he asked me if I wanted to sing in the talent show and that he would play the piano for me. And I was really flattered, and it made me feel good. It made me feel special because nobody really paid attention to me in middle school. None of the teachers, with the exception of a drama teacher, nobody really cared about me at all. And so it was really nice to be recognized. And he was very kind. He would stay after school with me several times a week and practice. And it was great. And he coached me a little bit. He wasn't a voice coach, but he knew enough. And he helped me a lot. And I ended up performing in the talent show. My friends were there. And it was the first time I got peer recognition at school. And it was great. And I credit that experience with changing my life because it gave me a confidence that I did not have before. And so I was thinking about this man, this really wonderful person from my memory. And I wanted to look him up to find out what he had been up to. I remembered that the last time I looked him up, he had won Teacher of the Year. And he had ended up, he won Teacher of the Year after getting a job at the high school I ended up going to. And so this is where it's going to circle to what I was talking about regarding my high school. So he ended up becoming a math teacher at my high school. He was very popular, won teacher of the year, I think maybe twice in the whole, I think, school district. It wasn't even just at my high school. I mean, he was like very popular. And so less than a year ago, I was looking him up. I was so shocked to see him in the news for being arrested on indecent exposure charges involving minors. And I was just flabbergasted. And I thought, this has to be a mistake, because I stayed after school with this man several times a week, and he could have done something to me, and he never did. He was well-meaning as far as I was concerned. He cared about me and he cared about his students. And so I was pretty upset when I read this. And I decided a few months later to go and check and see what was happening with that case. And oh my God, what followed was not just his story, but all these other stories around teachers at my high school. The vocal department head, who had become the director after I graduated, so he was not my choir director, had also been arrested on charges of sexual misconduct with a minor. Meaning, the story, I dug deeper and found out he had a sexual relationship with one of his students. Oh my God. But because he wasn't my teacher, it didn't hit me quite as hard. But I still it was kind of a blow to think I had always held my high school in this very high regard. Almost like this place can do no wrong. And I often would reflect on that, but I wouldn't allow myself to go too deep, because sometimes I wondered, am I looking at this high school in the way that like a cult member might look at their cult? Am I refusing to see the faults? Because as I shared in Singing Through the Shadows, there were quite a few experiences that really hurt me long term and made it, and I'm not blaming them. I don't see myself as a victim in any way. I'm just recognizing some things that happened. Nothing criminal happened to me, but I do feel like there was a culture there that existed that should have been taken care of. And when I continued reading all the articles that were being written about this school, I was able to see some information about one of the theater directors, not the one that I mentioned in my story, but another one who I had been in, I want to say 2 musicals with this man. And I hated him. I hated this man. I thought he was rotten to the core. I thought he was unfairly abusive to all of us. I mean, I never saw him be nice to a single student. He was cruel and angry, and he took every opportunity he could to yell at students and humiliate them. And because the other theater director was the same way, and the instrumental director was that way, I had this idea that that's just the way the professional performing arts world works, and that I was going to have to get used to this. If I was going to be a professional performer one day, I was going to have to adjust to this behavior. Which obviously, being somebody who ended up working at a women's shelter and training in the psychology of abuse and crisis intervention and developing all kinds of ideas about what happens to people who are abused and how serious this is, I have spent years, many moments throughout the years, contemplating the dynamics of the high school I ended up going to, and which I still think it's one of the most important chapters of my life. And I hold on to the memories. I guard them because they were so special to me. But there were many moments it was so obvious to me that there was a culture of abuse that was allowed to exist. And ever since these scandals broke out and all of these stories started coming out about other teachers as well, teachers who I don't recognize their names. I think they may have been hired after I graduated from there. And there are even teachers who I'm thinking, I can't believe nobody has called out so-and-so. I had a particular teacher who was my music theory teacher, and we all thought he was a creep. He was a jerk. He was creepy towards the girls, but nobody ever said anything. The theater director that I reference in my story, I mean, she was horrendous. And as I mentioned in that story, the kids, they had this like trauma bond together. You know, we wouldn't call it that. I wouldn't call it that back then. I didn't know what that word was. But now that I know it, I can look back and see that part of what made those kids so strong is that they had each other and they knew it was wrong, the behavior, which I always admired. I thought that's really cool that they know that the way they're being treated is wrong. They realize they have no power to change it. They realize their futures are dependent on this. And that's the truth. That may sound crazy to you, but that was true because the kids at my school depended on the recommendations of the teachers in order to get to a good school, namely a conservatory type program, which would ensure a promising career. And with that said, you may understand my struggle when you read my story in Singing Through the Shadows. Like I said, Daniel went to Juilliard. He had access to the best performing arts school in the country. And now look at him. He has this amazing career as a Broadway star. And I'm so happy for him. And I have other classmates who ended up going to these amazing schools and they have careers. I have a lot of classmates who are famous, who I see on TV all the time. And here I am, you know, I'm very happy with my life. But I've had a lot of moments where I think to myself, wow, like there's so-and-so again on The Good Wife. I see one classmate on there all the time. Just in the musical alone that I reference in my story, there are several people in that cast who have gone on to have successful performing arts careers. And if I named some of them, you would know who I'm talking about. Maybe, depending on how old you are, because some of them haven't really been doing much lately. But my point is, for many, many years, I would think to myself, God, I'm still just a music teacher. I've been very happy with my life because I've been able to create a truly liberating lifestyle for myself, where I work for myself, and I've been able to create a business where I teach music to people, and I've been doing that for many years, many years before The Healthy Voice. And so here's where it connects to The Healthy Voice. So right before I decided to launch that first video on my YouTube channel, when I finally said, okay, enough waiting, it's time to start this platform I've been thinking about for so many years. For so many years, I have thought to myself, these hardships have not been in vain. All along the way, I have collected lots of information. I have had experiential knowledge absorbed into my being that I am now able to share with other people and help them overcome. I never would have been able to find a voice teacher like this when I was younger and in need of instruction. It just didn't exist. And so I recognized that I had something to offer, but I was still too afraid, and I was still living in a state of imposter syndrome, not good enough. It's not going to work. You don't have enough authority. You're not as good as these other people who you went to school with and who have had success. And so right before I launched this platform, so it would have been maybe at the beginning of October, I was taking a little break from my day, and I was deciding, let me catch up on this drama situation with my teacher, my math teacher from long ago. And that's when I uncovered this rabbit hole of chaos that had just unraveled. And it made me look at my school differently. This whole time I had been looking at my school as this gate, like this, like a gateway or a gatekeeper, a gatekeeper. And in my mind, because of the culture of the school, I had this belief that I wasn't worthy of real success because, or at least not the kind of like visible, recognizable success of my classmates. And the reason I wasn't worthy of it was because I didn't play the same game as them when I was in school, meaning I kind of had a sense of what dignity is, and I didn't agree with the way my teachers behaved. And it was obvious. Like I didn't really play along, and that's part of the reason why I struggled to move up in that school. I often believe that the reason I was able to get prominent roles in my senior year is because, well, all the best talent had like the pool of talent was just a little smaller than it had been when I was a freshman or a sophomore. Because while I do think I was talented, there were other people who were far more talented and had far more experience than I did in the older years, in the older levels. And so once I reached the oldest level of the school, I had more experience than the younger people, and I had a drive, and I already had some natural talent. And so it just kind of makes sense that they would put me in some of these roles. But it's not like I had those opportunities before. It was like a necessity, because I think my teachers saw me as difficult, even though I wasn't really. I've been a teacher now for over 2 decades, and I know what difficult students are like, and I was not that. The thing is that I wasn't like, I'm very expressive in my face. And so if somebody behaves in an undignified manner, you'll know that I think so in my facial expression. Even if I don't say anything, it's going to be obvious. And that kind of thing, I think, got me in trouble and kind of got me stuck and made me unlikable by my teachers. And so I always had this sense that I was always going to struggle with authority. And it really discouraged me from going to a quote unquote good school where I could gain connections and move into the professional arts world with a little more ease. But then when I saw these articles, and it kind of put me into a bit of a crisis. I had to take a couple days to just process what I had just read. I mean, these articles did not hold back. I saw very, very disturbing accounts of extremely inappropriate behaviors towards students, of not just a sexual nature, but also of like a verbally abusive nature, just incredibly inappropriate. And I couldn't believe that all of these things had happened at my beloved high school, this school that I held up in such a high regard. And I continued to believe that comparing myself to everybody at that school and the way the teachers regarded me, it's been holding me back for a long time. And After I processed those feelings, it was a weekend process. And I think that it was probably that Monday I woke up and I think I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to stop believing these old beliefs that I've been carrying within myself since high school. This continuous comparison to other people who were able to hack it and these other people who were able to get into these great schools and have all this support to get a career started. I think it's time for me to stop doing that. It's time for me to just recognize that my experience has been very unique and different, and that I have something to offer the world that is not anything like what my school would have predicted for me. I'm grateful to the education I got there, and I'm grateful to my peers because they really taught me the most, even more than any of my teachers did. They continued to inspire me over the years, like seeing Daniel have success and some of the other kids, like right out of high school, Ryan, oh my God, I forgot his last name, but he's the lead singer in the band Yellow Card. He was in my class and we were in the musical together. And then there's another actor who is not a household name, but I see him on TV shows, and I know he did all right on Broadway. He's probably doing great right now. I don't keep up with him. And of course, there have been musicians who have Limp Bizkit is another one, which I'm not a fan of Limp Bizkit, so I'm always a little embarrassed to say that. But I did know I did know one of the guys, his brother, and good guys, really good guys. So I don't mean to like talk down about them, but it's just we just don't have the same taste in music. That's all. But my point is there have been a lot of success stories from the high school I went to, and all these years, it's been a long time since I graduated from high school, and all these years I had been carrying this feeling of, maybe it's not in the cards for me. Maybe I was at the same level as these people who went on to have success, but things happen and it's just not supposed to be. But after I read that, all those articles, I realized, why am I letting this hold me back? What am I doing? And I think it was probably that week that I said, all right, enough is enough. And I recorded my first video introducing myself to the world via my channel, which I called The Healthy Singer at first. And then I think it was the following week I changed it to The Healthy Voice. So I hope you got something out of that. I think the point I'm trying to make is that we all have these belief systems that hold us back. And some of these belief systems go back very, very far. Sometimes we compare ourselves to other people. But at the end of the day, we are all on a unique journey. We can't compare ourselves to anybody else, no matter what, even if it feels like we should be on the same path. And why aren't we? No, we're all very unique people, and we all have our own purpose in life. Since I launched 4 months ago, I'm now at like 24,500 subscribers. I am just like so blown away by this. But then at the same time, when it started happening, when the subscribers started coming in by the thousands, I knew that there was a connection to the decision I finally made to let go of that old belief pattern and just be myself and do the thing I had been wanting to do in front of the world. And it made sense to me that people were showing up, because for the first time in a very, very long time, I was actually being myself in front of everybody, and I was sharing what I believed I was supposed to be sharing. And I think that I think that it makes sense. I think that that's what you have to do. And that's why I say it's a unique journey for everybody. I didn't gain thousands of subscribers by performing music for people, which when I was in high school was what I imagined would happen. But it absolutely makes sense that throughout the path of my personal journey, that I would end up getting all of these followers for my skills as a teacher, because that is where my passion really lies. And that's what I have devoted most of my life to for over 2 decades. And of course, the healing part of my practice, trying to understand where do these fear patterns come from? Where do these debilitating beliefs come from? Why do they stop people who have so much promise, so much talent, and so much desire? How is it that these horrible experiences have this power over you? And so here we are, and I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to get back to editing my voice liberation method, which I'm really, really excited. Week 6 is all about the fear response. And that's probably also why this thought stream came to my mind. And I'm really proud of it because as I'm watching the videos in the editing process, I'm listening to the things I'm saying, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I learned all of this stuff in my lifetime. But it also makes sense. And because when you're on a healing path and you don't give up, you learn a lot. And that's my hope for you, is that you don't give up, that you keep going no matter what. Even when you have setbacks, it's valuable information. There's always valuable information in every circumstance. No matter how difficult the circumstance is, you can always learn. And knowledge and information are so valuable. They are more valuable than anything else in this world. And once you can start to believe that, that's when everything starts to fall into place. You can develop a feeling of non-attachment to these experiences, meaning you don't let the uncomfortable feelings get absorbed into you on a permanent basis. You feel them for a moment, and then you let them go so that you can just learn from the difficult experience. And then you can use that information to change your patterns moving forward. That's a big part of the path here. This hero's journey, the healthy voice path, our path to voice liberation. That is what we are striving towards. So I'll leave you with that. If you're still interested, there is still a week. I'm probably going to post this on Sunday night, which means you'll have less than a week to sign up for the 50% off. So take advantage of it now. If you want to pay full price when it comes out, hey, that's fine. I'm not going to stop you. But I'm just letting you know that the sale will stop as soon as we launch completely. So thanks so much for listening. Also, once I post this, there will be about 24 hours left before the Mastery membership flash sale ends for until Monday night, midnight Pacific time. You can get the Mastery level membership at the founding members price. And that's a really good deal. So check out the information to see what that involves. It's really good. If you're somebody you consider yourself to be very serious about your voice path, meaning you want to get as much high quality instruction as you can, then look into it. There's only 5 spots. I think as I record this, definitely 1 spot has been taken. I haven't checked in several hours, so I don't know how many are left, but check it out. And I hope to see you in the community. All right, you guys, have a great week.